if we bring on, let's bring on this is the predicted lineup we have for Man City. We do have our predicted lineup, which me and Ben picked, which we'll go into a bit later. But that's the lineup we think City are probably going to play. I mean, looking at that team, I mean, there's literally just world-class players everywhere. I'm trying to look for like a weakness in that team, which we could exploit, and I'm just very much struggling to find one. I mean, you get past Silva and Alvarez, there's Rodri there. You get past Rodri, there's Diaz and Akanji there, or Walker there as well. One player we haven't mentioned who does have a very good record against Man City is Sonny, who obviously does have a good record, especially at the Etihad as well. Do you see him potentially being our main source of attack? Brennan Johnson, maybe if he's going to start out wide as well, could add a bit more pace. And also one other question I wanted to ask is, a big question I think going into the game at the Emirates was, are Tottenham going to be able to like dominate possession like they had been before the game against Arsenal, and go to the Emirates and just dominate the game and play their game with more possession? And we kind of did. I wouldn't say we were the much better. I think we probably were the better team, but we did go to the Emirates. We had more possession than them. We outpassed them. Are we going to be able to do that against Man City?
So basically, there's going to be periods where you saw it against Liverpool last weekend. They had a lot of the ball. Liverpool are a possession-based team. So for us to go and think that we're going to have out-dominate, out-possess City, they're the originators. Like, we're the wannabes. I'm sorry. I'll be real. But I think
we did it to Arsenal. We did do it to Arsenal.
No, we did. And I do understand, but that's Arsenal, man.
We had our best team.
And we had our best team, yeah.
Arsenal's baby City, yeah. I know there's a couple of Arsenal fans in the chat. It is what it is, man. They're like, what's it called? I think X said it best, man. A little kangaroo pouch. And Arteta's in there, man. And he's just saying, look, here you go. You can have some of our players. But, getting back to the point, I think there's a small chink because they play with a back three. I know this is a back four, but when they're in possession, sometimes they go to a back three and sometimes they go to a back two, where I think Akanji is the one, or Akanji does push up into midfield. I think when he does push up into midfield, there is a space in behind. So I think that's when you've got your Johnson that can exploit and your Sonny that can exploit, because the two centre-backs, sometimes they do split wide. So if they split wide, I reckon sometimes what they're going to have to do is have Walker there, because Walker's going to be their quickest centre-back. So they'll probably have Walker splitting alongside maybe Diaz. So I'm thinking we just attack Diaz's side when we go to attack, and our right side is our stronger side out of the two sides, I think, because Brian Hill hasn't had as many games yet. And I think Kulu might stay in that 10, and I think Kulu might be the out ball, if that makes sense. So when we get that ball out, he's going to be able to protect it. And then the next pass will be probably like a Brennan or a Son. So
you think Brian Hill starts? You think Brian Hill starts?
If he's saying that back four stays the same, then I think unless he drops Kulu out of the 10.
But if you think the midfield's gonna change. So
obviously Basuma's back and Bentancur is out.
Yeah.
I was thinking about. I mean, we do have our predicted lineup, which we'll go through in a bit. But I was thinking, I think he saw how Lo Celso and Kulusevski combined in that midfield. I don't think he's going to want to lose that. I also think he saw Brennan on the right and how more effective he looked on the right-hand side. Now, the question is, can he keep Kulusevski in the middle without playing Hill? I don't really see an option there. I think he kind of has to. What other option does he have?
Brian Hill against
Højbjerg starts. If Højbjerg starts in midfield, then Kulu can go out to the left and then Johnson can go on the right. I reckon he's going to want Kulu to stay in the 10. I think he's going to want Kulu to stay in the 10. The way Kulu came out as well was like, oh, I feel like Kulu. Like, that's a massive statement. Do you know what I'm saying? It was like, I feel like I've played this position before. I know, like, I felt like I had the freedom to do what I'm doing. So I generally think that he will stay at the 10. I think Basuma will come in as a 6/8, and then the Gio will be the 6/8 as well. And they will interchange between each other. And it's just down to now Basuma. I think, honestly, Basuma had the yellow cards on his back. I think he had the yellow cards on his back and he was playing within himself. He got the red card. He was feeling guilty. He knew he couldn't fully go 100. But now I'm hoping that we can see the real Basuma, like we saw the first 3 or 4 games, as you said before, and that can make a massive difference. Because before Bentancur, everyone was screaming Basuma,
Yeah.
Basuma, Basuma, Basuma. Remember, he got
Yeah.
2 man of the matches back to back. Let's not forget. And I know like his passing range isn't the same as like a Bentancur, but his dribbling abilities, ball carrying ability, his press resistance. If he can bring any of those attributes into the game, we can look dangerous. Because I would have loved to see a battle. Even Gio, like to be fair, when Bentancur went off, we created 3 chances on target. And the second half, we created 5 chances on target, and most of them was because of Gio Lo Celso. Like Loso, he came on the ball and he was doing through balls into Son, through balls into Brennan Johnson on the left-hand side. And he was, even in that first half, all those chances that Brian Hill got was because of Gio. Gio was the one feeding them. Do you know what I'm saying? Obviously, Bentancur was doing bits on the right, and he was threading balls into Porro, threading balls into Son. Do you know what I'm saying? But on the left-hand side, Gio had one of his stand-up performances. And I think between Gio and Kulu, they were our 2 best players on the pitch, I felt, like when I watched it against Villa. So if they can step up in the City game the same way they did against Villa, we will be a problem going forward. We will.
I agree with that.
We were creating a lot, but again, we just weren't finishing our dinner. So
I don't think it's the game for Hill, though. I think Johnson, even on tired legs, went over and in a few minutes on that left side did more than Brian Hill did in the whole game. Like he's just got something about him. He doesn't lose the ball, but he goes forward.
Brian Hill's got no input. Brian
Hill, most of that game, just every time he got the ball, he went straight back to the guy who played him it. And you're just screaming like, go forward, man. There was one point where Højbjerg played the ball to him and he had 20 yards in front of him and he could just run the ball, just went straight back. And it was like, this kid has no confidence. He did a couple of things, but he did a couple of things where he should have been there and he should have done more. And so it's kind of like because we don't see him do much good. When he does something good, we go, oh my God, see, we told he's got talent. And it's like, it's way beneath the levels of someone else who should play in his position. Like Johnson, 100%. If you've got Johnson and Kulu, they both have to play. And I think if you do have 3 really strong midfielders, they've got to play as well. So I would have Hobby in the 6, and I would have Basuma as one of the 8s with Gio. Because then I think you've got a pressing monster. You know, because if you're thinking about if we're going to go out there and we're going to attack and we're going to try stop them, I think like having essentially a press machine of Basuma, Gio, and Udogie behind Kulu, Son, and Johnson, that's 6 super strong press players. You know, so I think Højbjerg's going to come in, but I don't think you have him in the 8 or 10 roles. I think you have him playing out at the back and where he's comfortable, you know, and you just get on him and move the ball fast.
Sai, to the question I asked Ash, when would you reckon we'll be able to go to City and dominate possession, or are we naturally going to have to play on the counter-attack here?
I think historically we have done well with that counter-attack aspect, but we equally had the players at that time to relatively play that way. Kane and Son, their goal records and partnership speaks for itself, and the understanding of how we need to be patient. Yes, okay, the rest of the team didn't always adhere to how it should be done. If we had our full range of players available, I'd be pretty confident with the sense that we could actually probably coordinate the game in both ways if we needed to at different times. But with this time round, with the fact that we pretty much know what the defensive capabilities are and how they work, I don't really think they're amazingly great in possession. There's a lot of dodgy passes or not knowing when to go forward or getting stuck, exactly what you guys both just said. In that orientation, you get so far forward and you're like, I don't know what to do now. I'm going to pass it backwards. This is where I think we get stuck. I'm sure Andrew's got a game plan in his head of those 2 scenarios, but I'm equally sure and positive that he already knows what the capabilities of the team that he selects can and cannot do. If we had our full team, I think it's a different story because they would be able to adapt to the kind of, at the end of the day, City can switch on a sixpence like in 5 minutes. They could be like, this isn't working, we'll switch up, everyone knows what they're doing, and then you're in trouble again. Whereas before, I suppose one of the great things about Conte and probably Mourinho was their emphasis on the defensive mechanism to get those counters and get those points in a weird, strange way and out of nowhere sometimes, like the last few times we have played them. But I don't think we have that anymore. Because we do have a manager that wants to attack and have a bit of flair to it. Yes, there is a bit of balance when the possession comes in, but this weekend particularly, I don't think we have that opportunity. So it's going to be an extremely difficult game, and not one we're necessarily used to, that we could guarantee and go, we're going to play this way and we're just going to be patient, pass it around, or let Man City just keep attacking and nothing happens, and then we go and counter and get a great goal at the other end. I can't envision that unless it comes on the back of what Ash said. I think Bazuma is a critical player in this game, purely from the fact that he has that box-to-box mentality. He can give that back up to a defensive midfield position and to that defence. We know how rapid that Man City midfield can be, and he can catch up with that. And he does intercept very well. He reads danger very well, but he is also the only one probably in that team at the moment that can fixate a decent pass, or at least find someone with that threaded pass. Yes, Lo Celso, of course, did a great job last week. Hopefully that continues. We haven't seen that before properly. But if we can have two players that have that aspect, but more importantly, that one player can really back up that defense, which we will need. We will need someone, if not two people, to help out in that situation, but still have the ability to go, right, we've done the defensive work in this few seconds. We now need to urgently switch this into attacking format. Otherwise, we're just going to keep losing the ball. So it's going to be a huge test of the mentality of some of these newer players that come in, and how some of the older players react to this. I have no confidence in the older players whatsoever. They have done nothing in the last 2 or 3 years to change my mind on that. So I think it's down to some of these new individual players that have been, some of them are brand new in the summer, but some of these players that know the philosophy of how we need to play. And I want to see a bit of anger from some of these players. If someone's not doing something properly, let them know about it. That's what I would expect from some of these new players as a leadership aspect of it. But it's going to be difficult. You cannot in this game decide right now whether it's going to be a possession-based or a counter-attack one. I think it's going to be a game that has a massive mix of that approach, and it's going to be a question of how well we deal with that. Because I guarantee Man City will do that, and it's exactly what we said earlier. If it doesn't work with their press, they start going route one, and we need to make sure that we can adapt with that. And there's only 2, maybe 3 players that I feel Spurs have in this game coming forward that have the ability to adapt to whatever the changes may require.
Looking, we've picked out 2 ones to watch. They're not completely impossible to pick, but it's Erling Haaland and Jeremy Doku. We spoke a lot about obviously Erling Haaland and what you can do to try and stop him. It's going to be very difficult. Obviously, look at that: 14 goals, 3 assists. He's an absolute beast in front of goal. But obviously Doku, who's been coming into the team recently, 10 appearances, 2 goals, 5 assists. He's been a bit of a dribbling machine as well. I'll go to Brains on this one. If we don't kind of make a plan to stop him, if we just leave him 1-on-1 v Porro and just hope for the best, are we asking for trouble? Or do you think we should approach this game not trying to stop City, but asking them questions of what we're going to do, rather than trying to always double up and making sure that if Doku has the ball, we have a plan for him? What do you think the best way of approaching him is?
Yeah, see, this is the thing. Like, I get the idea of playing front foot attacking football, but honestly, it's not football. If you don't have a defensive strategy and how you're going to deal with a team every game, you're not playing football. I get that we wanted to see good football as fans, but you have to have a plan. You know, even if you can't just say, oh, we've got no good defender. We all know the problem. You know, so like with a situation like this is where there's no chance of seeing Kulu in the 10, because Kulu is now going to be dragged back to help Porro deal with this situation. You're going to have to double up when that takes one of our players out of the press. So then if you're going, anytime we have the ball, do you then wait for Kulu to get up, or do you try play out deep with Kulu involved in the play? And it's it's a difficult thing to like contend with. I think there is that mindset where you go, well, look at your wings. Like, do you pin players back? You know, like the same on the other side. It's not like the other side's any easier. You know, you've either got Foden or Silva coming off that side as well. So you're not going to. So then there goes Destiny is going to have to be pinned back at some point as well. So it's how do you decide to play? So we decide, okay, we're going to play front foot football. All right, how do you get through the channel? How do you get through the channels against a team that's really known for shutting down the channels and then counter breaking the ball down in the midfield? It's not an easy thing. I don't think you can play Ange's style of football without capable defenders. You know what I mean? It's not just an attacking style of football. It's football that comes playing out from the back and it cuts through a team, and it's all about possession domination. And if you don't have players at the back that can do this, I think Porro, every game, he has so many good parts of his game, but he also has so many bad parts. You know, like if Porro gets it in him, like I'm gonna pocket this guy, then he will do it because he's that kind of guy. He's like, if he's got a big challenge in him, he'll rise to the occasion. But he's also got the other side of the game that he has to play in Ange's system, where he has to get up. He's involved in so many of the attacking moves. Like, he could have had multiple assists and he could have had multiple goals last week. So, but then this is a different game, because if you leave just over your shoulder, like, it's too much of a risk to leave Doku on the halfway line, ball through and bang, he's gone. He's lightning fast. You don't want simple balls going across the area of uncertainty to Haaland. And that's what I think is going to happen all day long. So it's a difficult one, man. It really is.
But you could argue, I'll go to Ash with this one as well. You could argue that when Man City come up against good players, they don't make a. I'm not saying they don't have because they've got very good defenders. So maybe it's a case of they know they can leave their defenders one-on-one with any attacker and fancy their chances. But when Man City come up against good teams, they don't make a specific plan for that team. They just play their game and know that they're gonna and trust that their players are good enough to execute the plan, and they're not gonna come up against like an Arsenal and say, okay, we'll play up against Saka today, so we'll put 3 players on him. No, they're just going to continue to play their game. So would Ange be silly to make that approach, or would he say, look, that is the approach I'm going with, and yes, we're coming up against Doku, but we have to play our game first and foremost?
Yeah, I just reading a comment from Michael Bridge, and he was like, really entertaining Ange Postecoglou presser today, despite over 11 injuries. Quote, don't lose focus on what the end game is here. So that means, just to back up your point, I think Ange is more focused on the end goal, the philosophy, and what he's trying to get into these players. He's got a style of play. It doesn't matter who the opposition is, and he wants to get that into their brain. He doesn't want another Wolves performance. We've tried that. He tried to tinker, and like it worked for Arsenal, to be fair. Arsenal, Arteta, he came along against City and he actually changed it, and it was a boring game, but they managed to get the win. But I just think what we're trying to achieve and what our motives are for this season are slightly different to what Arsenal's are, if that makes sense. I think against Doku, it depends on the state of play and where we are on the pitch. If it's a thing where we've got the ball and they're doing a fast transition, then Doku's going to have lots of joy. But if they've got the ball, because sometimes they like to control the ball a lot, then I think it's a thing where we do a 4-4-2 and we stay really compact in the middle, because they like to play centrally, and we just leave Doku out there on the wide. And when he does come inside, then that's when we get defensive and we start to push our players out on them. Do you know what I mean? So it does depend on the phase of play where we're talking about. It's not always going to be Spurs has the ball, or it's not always going to be where City have the ball. There's going to be different points of the game where we're going to have to be switched on. And as I said before, I worry about that transition where we're trying to press high on City and they beat our press. That's when I'm worried about Doku.
Ash, don't you think though, like if you're playing for a manager and every week he goes forward, don't you think you have to get the ball to dominate the ball? So don't you think that you if you've got your whole team ravaged with injuries, you've got to change something? Like I get the idea of the overall thing of like,
yeah,
it's mixed messages, right? If you're going like, look, lads, see it as a training game. We've just got to keep practicing these things, getting everything going. fair enough. We lose the game, fine. If he's being like that kind of realist, fair enough. But don't expect your players then to get the ball because they're going to get dominated in space unless you come up with a plan of action, how to organize the defensive structure, how to play out from the back, how to come deep, little false modes of play, fakies, move Sonny out in the wing, move Kula and Brennan John, move things around all the time. If he doesn't come up with little bits of magic, then the reality will become that punters, fans, and eventually Spurs fans are going to be going one-trick pony. Because when you're on the pitch and you're not getting the ball, and when you're on the pitch and you're seeing goal go in after goal, you're not building a good team. You're building players who are getting broken, and then then you lose the dressing room because you go, God's sake, we don't have Madison. We're playing the game that Madison's good. We don't have this guy. And we don't have VDV and Romero. We're playing out the back and getting caught and losing 6 goals. Like, players aren't going to buy in. We're all human. Players are not going to go, yeah, I'm in here. And then we just went on randomly 6-7 games, losing every one of them just because of the end game. It's like you don't hold the dressing room with that mentality.
And I do feel that concern because I think that's what a lot of fans are now starting to realize. If we get spanked, it's going to be embarrassing. If we lose against West Ham, then Newcastle, then like fans are going to be like, wait, hold on, 6 in a row. Like, I don't care how funny you are and saying you're right, mate. Like, that doesn't wash anymore. That romance is over. But I honestly think that in terms of like defensive play, his style is to win the ball high up. So I think with Sonny and Kulu, I think they will be the first to, not Kulu, I think Sonny, maybe Kulu, Sonny and Kulu, or Sonny and Johnson, they will press from the front. But obviously we tried to win the ball back in that kind of midfielder area where I think our fullbacks turned into like 8s. They tried to press. Yeah. And then our midfielders, who are 8s, they tried to press high up the pitch and win the ball back there. And then hopefully we create more chances that way. I think that is the MO. Rather than defending deep, allow them to have the ball and then be closer to our goal. We're trying to keep them away from our goal. And so the objective is to defend high up. Now, whether we have the players for this is obviously debatable. I agree with you. And he did say there will be bumps in the road. He actually warned us. And it's like fans are forgetting about the bumps in the road. So I don't mind if we do get beat. Like, it's weird saying it, man. But it's City. Do you know what I mean? I'm a realist. We're not like, it is what it is. But if we're playing the right way and I can see there's a direction and the players get behind it and they can see a direction, like, yeah, we didn't win, but I thought we were unlucky. We hit the post. 1 goal was offside. I think and City went away like feeling right. You know what? I think they should have beaten us. Or even Pep comes out and says, you know what? That was probably the best game we've had this season. I think Tottenham are going to do well this season. Do you know what I mean?
So on that then,
do
you say the game gets played? Same with you, Si. Say the game gets played, right? Same defensive thing as last week. Same no changes there, right? Mm-hmm. Now our attack in midfield press up high, and they do a great job, and they create some chances. It doesn't go our way. Maybe we got a goal here and there. We all know that they're all great, and when they do get the press right, we know they're great. Nothing new answered there. But we can't get the ball to them for most of the game, and
that could happen. Yeah.
And we lose balls trying to play out the back, and bang, goal. Does Ange gain more respect from you for sticking with his guns again because he's done that 2-3? We're like, all right, cool. Last week actually gained a little respect, or do you lose a bit of respect? Does it knock a little bit more off you?
We're so early in the process that I can't lose respect for him just yet. Do you understand?
Just games. Not changing the tactic.
The actual tactic itself.
Or bringing in the youth to at least, maybe we just see 2 new defenders at the back and maybe something good happens.
I think 2 defenders is a bit too much. I wouldn't mind seeing a 1 new defender and putting them alongside experience. I think that's more viable. But I mean, I think loads of people are scared about bringing in a defender. Because remember, Ange sees these players week in, week out. We don't. Mm-hmm. These if the academy players already. Do you know what I mean? He knows that they're playing in front of 10,000 fans compared to like 60,000 fans. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He knows that their personality. These are young men. They're 18 years old. Who's to say this 18-year-old's fully developed his character yet? Do you know what I'm saying? In a certain situation, he might not know how they are going to cope. And remember, Ange has had over like 15 to 10 years of experience of coaching. more than a lot of some of these Premiership managers, more than Arteta has. Do you know what I'm saying? I know it's
you don't gain character on the training pitch or playing with your
correct.
friends.
I do agree with you. But he said if they're good enough, he said it as well. If they're good enough, they will start. And he said if you train hard enough, you will start as well. If you impress him, because he's watching, he's not a man that's always going to be in your face telling you what to do. He's an observer. He's a thinker, and he even changed it up when the fans said, "Oh, we don't want to see Dyer." He got rid of Dyer. Fans still unhappy. All right. I want to see more attacking. I want to see Kulu in the 10. Who would have thought he would put Kulu in the 10? He's put Kulu
with Lo Celso. No one predicted he would play them both together.
That's why I'm hoping if we all demand Dorrington, and he'll just do that.
Remember, Son was on the left. Hold on. Son was on the left. He said, I'm going to put Son up top.
Yeah. That's all just common sense.
What more does he have to do? You know, and he's 12 games in as well. And he's learning about these players. He's learning about their characteristics, sorry. And so for me, it's like when Klopp first came and he had like, who did he have in midfield, like, or in defense even? He didn't have the goalkeeper he wanted at the back. He didn't have half the players he wanted. But he said, this is the philosophy. It doesn't matter if we get battered. This is what I'm. Even when Pep came in, and he had Clichy and Sagnan. You know what I'm saying? He never had no defenders. He got
Di Michaelis, all these heads.
And he got pumped a couple of times. Remember, we pumped him. We pumped him 4-1.
And I remember, not only that, they won their first 10 games of the season, and then they started getting pumped after that, after he got found out a bit. And then, because he realised he didn't have the players. It's a very similar thing. It's a very similar thing.
What about you two, Sai and Sim? Does he gain or lose any respect on this game?
For me, if as long as he's trying to win the game, if he changes his tactics to try and look for a draw and trying to sit deep, then for me, I think as long as he's trying to win the game, and I'm seeing like, look, he's changing things, but we're still creating more chances with his changes, then that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at how we are on the ball. Yeah, we might concede a few more goals, but you know, I think the best teams at the moment have amazing attacks. I think the days of like Mourinho winning the league with 15 goals conceded and all that kind of stuff, I don't know. I just don't feel like that's modern football anymore. And I feel like I think he's taking the right approach. And but in terms of this game, over like we've talked about a lot about like how Man City are going to hurt us and how obviously our defense is, you know, very poor. But does there not a little part of you feel like could this game, in a way, the way Man City play, and you know, we saw how they played against Chelsea, very open, and we saw how Chelsea were able to create chances at will, and it was ended 4-4. Do you like seeing how easy it was? Not easy, but seeing how we were able to create chances against Villa last week with the midfield that we had? Is there not a part of you that feels like if we do play that team, there is definitely chances there for us, and if we can just take enough of them, maybe we can get something out of this game?
For me, I look at decision making in that final third. I look at the clinical aspect of it. I think if we're clinical against Villa, we destroy them. And then this whole conversation about Ange is completely different. Like no one's questioning them. No one's saying about tactics, because we won the game. But because the result was negative, this is what we have at the moment. And people aren't looking at what we're doing on the pitch, if that makes sense. Like they're not actually seeing like, wow, if Porro puts his foot through it rather than trying to cross it to Son in that first half when Bentancur plays him through all over the top, then that's a goal. Do you know what I mean? He did it against Southampton last season and he scored a banger, hit the roof of the net when it came over to him. But for whatever reason, he's trying to cut it back to Son. Gil on that, Brian Hill on that side, he did a lovely cross into Son. Son an inch too small. Or was
he pulled his head away from it.
Yeah, he could have got it. He could have got that.
What I'm saying to you. This is what I'm saying. These are the margins I'm talking about. Even Brian Hill, the amount of times he was in that byline kind of area, and you're meant to do the cutback because remember, the doggy when he's playing against Bournemouth, he does a cutback. Kulusevski finishes. Yeah. Arsenal, you see Maddison do the cutback. Son finishes. Do you know what I'm saying? We are the cutback kings. City like to do it. I think it's a City group thing where they like to do the cut. That's what they're taught. So when Brian Hill's in that position and he's trying to play the ball along the floor and he's playing it square instead of cutting it back and finding Kulu, because Kulu was in that position where he could have finished it, but he's trying to find Son square on. That's the difference between us getting it right and maybe some of these players that are B team. Because remember, it was our B team, and I think we had our most creative display with our B team. Reminded me of the Barcelona friendly.
I don't know if you can call a midfield of Bentancur, Kulu, and Gio a B team though.
But it was. But it was Basuma, Sarah, Madison. That's our first three.
It was a team that's been winning the games, and some of the games that we've won, we haven't been shredding teams apart. We've just been taking our chances.
If you have a full fit team, VDV and Romero at the back, like it would be arguable what would be the better midfield.
But this is it. I don't want just thinking it out the moment, injuries, suspensions, because now we're getting to see some of these fringe players. And the fact that Ange is getting the best out of Lo Celso speaks more volumes about Ange than anything else. Do you know what I'm saying? Because other managers couldn't get the best out of Lo Celso. They couldn't get him. He didn't look happy. Everyone was like, I don't think he wants to be here. They're more judging him on his personality rather than his football. But at the same time, he was injured quite a lot. We didn't see a lot of appearances from Lo Celso. But now he's looking at the player that likes to drive the ball, can carry it, can dribble, very quick half turn, quick little Cruyff turns, finding balls through the middle, can see a pass. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's just one performance. I'm not going to die on a hill and say, raw. Lo Celso is going to come and play well against Man City. But I'm just saying that there are elements where I'm like, okay, maybe this can work in midfield. And you're right. If Van comes back in and Romero comes back in, who's to say that we might not keep Lo Celso, Basuma, and then have a Madison in that midfield three? Do you know what I'm saying? That might cook. Exactly to your face. But without those injury suspensions, we would have never known. So I don't mind us stinking it out now, going through the injuries right now before January hits. And then when January comes and our players start to come back and we still got points on the board and then we start going on runs, then I'm like, yeah, I would prefer that rather than breaking down in April or March. You know what I'm saying? Where that's the business end. That's when we need our players back. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I'd rather have the Afcons, the Asia Cups all now. Let's just think it out. Let everyone laugh at us. Look at Tottenham, blah, blah, blah. But we can see that the skeleton. We can see what the man's trying to do. And for me, fans have just got to get behind it. Like, we talk about, the club have got to back the manager. But we've got to back the manager. There's no point us questioning the manager's tactics. And, you got to tweak this, tweak that. And then, but Ange isn't backed. The club. We've got to back him. Like, if we stink it out and we lose, we get hit. And he told us, that's the wickedest thing. He told us there's going to be bumps in the road. And look at us. Look, Ange needs to change it, blah, blah. And we all said it at the start of the season. Yeah, there will be some bumps there. But no one expected us to do so well. And I think that's what's affecting our actual decision making as fans. Do you know what I'm saying? We are very reactionary as fans. We see things that happen and we live in the moment, and that's the reason why we're like, the dummy comes out and we start saying, not the dummy comes out, but we're too gung-ho, we're too this, we're too that. Do you know what I mean? But this is some of the best football that we've had in years, but we're still not happy.
But yet, what you have to understand is I'm happy. I was at that game. I actually thought that the performance of that game, when you lose Bentancur, even the grit to hang in, like there was so many good things. But I'm a football player, so I still come from the mentality of game by game. There must be improvements, and when you have like injuries, there must be tactical changes. And if you're thinking about it from a player point of view, you want your manager to come up with little things that solve little problems. It's not sometimes you can, if you're a manager who's come in and you say that at the start, look, I'm new, it's gonna be bumps on the road, you're kind of buying yourself a season, right? And we know that, and we're willing to give him 6 seasons. We literally are willing to give him his seasons. And I'm the first guy saying, like, look what he did at Celtic. He had games. He lost things for a while.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but let me bring Sai on real quick. And if Sai can agree or disagree with me, but do you not think the game changed when it looked like we just had Højbjerg and Skip in midfield? You know that point when Lo Celso went off, and then the wingers, like Kulu went into the right wing, and then Johnson went to left wing, and then it was like Skip, Højbjerg, and Venice up top. So it was almost like the old school midfield pairing of that Conte's days. And I think that's when we dropped off. I understand why he brought Skip in, because it was fresh legs and he was trying to get control of the game. Because I agree with Brains, like there's points in the game where you just need little short passes. Don't do the long balls and lose possession. Just kind of slow it down a little bit, thread about 4 or 5 passes together, and then let us catch the breath, because everyone was blowing at that point, apart from Kulu, because Kulu's engines is crazy. Brennan Johnson hasn't quite got the same engine, but I know how it is, like playing fullback or even centre back. When you don't have the ball, you're running constantly up and down like a basketball pitch. Even if you haven't got the ball, it can take a lot on your lungs. It's hard, and you need to get that second win. It's not easy. I know we watch it and think, oh, it looks like Brendan Johnson's vaping. Like, what? He's 22 years old. What the hell is he not fit enough? Like, what's going on? But like, what do you think? Like, you lost it when Skip came on. Like, I don't know. Is it just me?
You're right there. Yeah, it kind of died when they came on. Sai, you're probably sitting there with a list of like 20 things on a sticky note going. Right. So, 2 hours ago, I had this thought.
Fine. I like you guys talking, so it's fine. No, for me, it's all about effort. I think that's clear from the fans at the moment. I think it goes back to what Ash said about this. You know, we were warned about this. We're not stupid. It is literally because we've done so well that we now have that as an expectation that this is going to be normal for the rest of the season, and it's not. So you do get these unfortunate, results, and it's equally as unfortunate in the manner that it's happened, and then snowballed to the fact that we've now got 3 L's on our results list over the last 6 games, and it doesn't read well. But when you're out, when you look at it in depth, there's reasons behind it, and I think it's crystal clear in my head that everyone's behind this, and including myself, because predominantly in the last few years the football has been appalling, like absolutely appalling to watch as a Spurs fan, and what we're perceived to be used to in a nice free flow attacking, etc., the Pochettino era, blah blah. But for me, it was like, yesterday it takes me usually like three hours to get to a game, right? And obviously on the way back, like I left at 8:30 in the morning, I'm home at 9:30 at night. That's just the day, as most of us that come down here on the minibuses and stuff. And usually in the previous performances, we would go home maybe like 85 minutes, and that's not because we're fickle, and like in most cases the last few seasons because we're losing. It's actually been, for me personally, the performance. Like when you're paying money and you are traveling this much time and you're putting energy and mental effort into this and you're not receiving it back, it's all right for a while, but when you have it for a long period of time, you're like, no, this is not acceptable. So I think this season there is a bit of leeway in that, and I would categorically say that stadium was pretty much full still at 95 minutes, and that there's 2 variables to that. One is the fact I quite find it sometimes exciting that you get the extra 10 minutes out of nowhere, and you're like, okay, cool. It's like as if it's 80 again, and we got a lot of time to try and do something. The equaliser was on the cards. We came close a couple of times, but I actually think, and more in my mind, wasn't so much that, it was chances have been created. The energy, yes, it was dying down a bit, but the effort was still there. Mm-hmm. The only downside was, to your point, Ash, of bringing certain players on. It is frustrating because we knew that was there. We knew, and everyone's always said along the way, if we lose 1 or 2 of these players, we're potentially screwed, in the sense that we're going back to a team that we were watching the last 2-3 years. And it does dumb the stadium down a bit, to be honest. And everyone around me, we're all the same. We just sit, you hear some moans and groans, they're like, oh, this is the same as last year's team, and this, that, and the other. And then all of a sudden it goes quiet. So it does have a bit of a ripple effect. There's a lot of variables to it, but it is what it is until January. Hopefully something at least is changed in that instance. And next summer, of course, it is a process, and Anne's warned us. But I think we're so warmed to him as an individual. He's actually on a level playing field with us as fans, which is very important, and understands the kind of football that we want to see. Yes, okay, some of our players aren't at that ability level, but on last weekend there was effort, which is why majority of us stood there and thought, okay, it's going to take me an extra 2 hours to get home, but at least something might happen here. Whereas before it's just like, you're already 2-3 nil down or something, or just nothing's like making you want to stay here at all. It's depressing. And it's changed that philosophy. But what can we do in those instances? It's going to be the same against Man City. Okay, we've got one player back from suspension, but ultimately it's going to be a very similar team to last week. And if some of those players do get tired or not working out, it's going to be the same players as last year coming on ultimately. So that's not going to change till January. But that brilliant philosophy at the moment, which fans have really dug into, I think people weren't angry about last weekend. Of course, I was frustrated, disappointed. I hate losing. And it's an even longer journey when we lose the game. But for the first time in years, I'm telling you years, that where we've lost the game and I haven't been angry about it. And I've just gone, Villa had a game plan. The officials are, I'm not going to say it, just in case it's the monetization. But
Thank you, Si.
They were shit. And basically, they were absolutely awful. And it's
Thank you, Si.
well, we could have another video on VAR and officials and stuff. It annoys me just because it ruins the game. But I'm going on a rant there. But it's that principle that you take those two things out of the equation. Yes, we should have put those chances to bed, especially Son with offside 3 times and all this stuff. But the effort was there. The chances were being made. If those two elements weren't there, I would be in a completely different mindset to today. And I think we have to owe that to the manager. We owe it to the fact that we are in that position player-wise. Yes, we can blame the board, blah, 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 for many years. And we seem to be on a track. So it is frustrating to see some of these older players. But let's try and see what some of them are made of. Like Gio has done a good job of coming in so far, albeit only one game, to show that he can play in this system if he really wants to. But some of these players jump in and you're like, please stop passing it backwards. Please stop passing it sideways. Do what we want, not necessarily what we want to see, but what we're trying to do as a team. That's what I want to try and avoid. I don't think we're going to get that many chances in Man City to showcase that. But, it is in a positive direction. The Man City game, whether you say it's a free win or a free chance for us to just write it off already is another question. But as long as I see effort and no heads down and stuff like this, and actually just putting in some form of performance, we can't be too angry. We're not expecting anything in this game, but any other game, as I said, those two elements, if they're not there, that's when I get agitated and really, really angry as a Spurs fan. But in the games that we have been watching, the ones we've been losing, we can't deny the effort's not been there. The Chelsea game was surreal. Watching that on TV, I couldn't get to that game, unfortunately. But to see us go that long with 9 men and the effort that was put in was absolutely sensational. And the Wolves game, Wolves are a tough team, but we were creating a couple of chances here and there, playing well. The effort was there, and it's the same with the Villa one. But yeah, those two things disappear. It becomes a different story, and we're questioning Ange's plan B. Where is this? But at the moment, we want these fringe players, for a better word, to start stepping up to this new system. Like Ange's sitting there going, show me what you're made of. And we as fans know what they're made of previously. Tell us what you're about now. And if it doesn't show up, not necessarily against Man City, but these coming games coming up, we know full well what their destiny is in January and whether the switch around comes. So that's just my position on it, and one of the 50 comments that I've got on a piece of paper here that I haven't been able to get.
All right.